Hail to thee, blithe spirit, for thou never wert that from heaven or near it pourest thy full heart in profuse strains of unpremeditated art. Higher still and higher from the earth thou springest, like a cloud of fire the blue deep thou wingest, and singing still dost soar, and soaring ever singest. In the golden lighting of the sunken sun, o'er which clouds of brightening thou dost float and run, like unbodied joy when the race is just begun. The pale purple even melts around the flight, like a star of heaven in the broad daylight. Thou art unseen, but yet I hear thy shrill delight. Keen as are the arrows of that silver sphere, who intensely it narrows in the white dawn clear, until we hardly see, we feel that it is there. All the earth and air with thy voice is loud, and when night is bare from one lonely cloud, the moon rains out her beams, and heaven is overflowed. What thou art we know not, what is most like thee. From rainbow clouds there flow not drops so bright to see, as from thy presence showers a rain of melody, like a poet hidden in the light of thought, singing hymns unbidden till the world is wrought. To sympathy with hopes and fear it heeded not, like a highborn maiden in a palace tower, soothing her love-laden soul in secret hour. With music sweet as love, which overflows her bower, like a glow-worm golden in a dell of dew, scattering unbeholden its aerial hue, among the flowers and grass which screen it from the view, like a rose embowered in its own green leaves, by warm winds deflowered, till the scent it gives makes faint with too much sweet those heavy-winged leaves.
Sound of vernal showers on the twinkling grass, rain awakened flowers, all that ever was, joyous and clear and fresh, thy music doth surpass. Teach us, sprite or bird, what sweet thoughts are thine. I have never heard praise of love or wine, that panted forth a blood of rapture so divine. Chorus hymeneal or triumphal chaunt, matched with thine would be all, but an empty vaunt, a thing wherein we feel there is some hidden want. What objects are the fountains of thy happy strain? What fields or waves or mountains? What shapes of sky or plain? What love of thine own kind? What ignorance of pain? With thy clear, keen joyance, languor cannot be. Shadow of annoyance never came near thee. Thou lovest, but near new love's sad sighing.
Waking or asleep, thou of death must dream, things more true and deep than we mortals dream. Or how could thy notes flow in such a crystal stream? We look before and after, and pine for what is not. Our sincerest laughter with some pain is fraught. Our sweetest songs are those that tell of sadness thought. Yet if we could scorn hate and pride and fear, if we were not things born not to shed a tear, I know not how thy joy we should come near. Better than all measures of delight sound, better than all treasures that in books are found. Thy skill to poet were, thou scorner of the ground. Teach me half of gladness that thy brain must know, such harmonious madness from my lips would flow. The world should listen then, as I am listening now.
Video. Okay.
The rhyme scheme of the video is A, B, A, B, B. The first and third words rhyme, and then the second, fourth, and fifth words line at the end of the line. I really like how Shelley doesn't necessarily personify the bird, but he does personify the bird's emotions, because he is like, that's like the ideal emotions that he wants to have about life. Like at the beginning he talks about how incomparable the bird's like singing and melody is, and how there's nothing that really seems to be as beautiful as that, but then he kind of just starts to get nervous and worry about death, but then realizes that the skylark doesn't fear death because there's something better that comes after life and after death that mortals really have no idea about. And so he really like wants to be like the bird and doesn't want to worry and doesn't want to fear death, but really just soak up every bit of life that we have now. So I think that's really cool.
I really like how detailed he was with like the imagery. It really like opened up like how we saw what he was like thinking, and it like helped us understand.
Yeah, like about the bird and its beauty and everything.
Also, like, kind of on that, like, he used like the imagery, but he also used imagery like a lot. Like, it was very repetitive. It was very monotonous, and it kind of just got boring to a point where it was like, okay, he's just saying the same thing over and over again. But then, like, if you look like farther into it, it's more like about, because it reveals like different perspectives of like nature that can like that like makes the bird, like that represents the bird. So like in like mountains and waves and like fields and like rain and all that, like in every single perspective of nature, like there was something that represents the bird.
So the poem To a Sky-lark by Percy Shelley is about a skylark, or like a bird or whatever it's supposed to be, is about, it's like being compared to nature and how its glorious beauty is basically being portrayed through different scenes of nature. And it's split up into 21 stanzas, and it's split up into 3 different parts, and then also 2 different tone shifts that like help bring the poem like along.
Yeah, and that like divide the 3 like basically like 3 different key ideas, and they're split up between 2 different tone shifts. So in the first part, the tone is really like happy and joyous, and Shelley's talking about like the different beauties of the bird and how it's just like compared to different things in nature, like Lizzie said, and just even not just nature, but even in like just within humans, and how we are like emotionally and what we think of and stuff. But he's talking about like the beauty and the marvel of the skylark, and how to him that there's not much that compares to it. Like, it's so beautiful and it sounds so pretty that like not even like a wedding or stuff like that compares to it. He gives like a couple different examples, kind of. You have to like dig deep to think about it. But then in the second part, where there's the first tone shift, it shifts kind of like to sorrow, like sadness, because Shelley like thinks about death and how it's inevitable but like scary to him at the same time. But then he like realizes with the skylark that death is like not something, it's not a thing to fear, it's not something that's scary, and that the skylark really just lives in the moment. Maybe it doesn't think like humans do, but when you think about it, you really want to just soak up every bit of life and every moment in life, because mortals don't know what comes after life and how amazing it is. And so he's talking about how the skylark doesn't fear, and so he's wanting to be like the skylark emotionally, and like be as happy and be as joyous as a skylark. And so when he realizes that like thinking about death and worrying about death isn't something that he really should do, because if he wants to be like the skylark, then he needs to really live in the moment and enjoy every bit of life just like the skylark does. And so in the third part, the tone shifts back to happy and joyous, but then it also adds content, because he's really content. Shelley's content when he realizes that he doesn't need to get hung up with death and how upsetting death is to him, because the skylark isn't. And he really wishes that he can enjoy and soak up life like the skylark does. So that's our analysis.